Well, my name is Miriam Hirschl. I was born to a wonderful, loving couple. I was the third child, and my parents' names were Samuel and Ann Seltzer. In actuality, it really was Zeltzer, Z-E-L-T-Z-E-R. However, when they went to Ellis Island, as usual, it was changed. We were a very closely knit family, and I think that's where I've got my love of family. Family is everything to me. I love to see all of my kids, all of my grandkids. I love every single one of those little great-grandchildren I've been having. I could have more, and I know I will have more. I've had boys, and I thought I was about to, going for the 12 tribes. But here comes this little girl now. I enjoyed school. I enjoyed every moment of my schooling. I went to PS 42 in Queens, and my second grade teacher used to walk. She lived near my dad's store, and so she would walk me home. I had been working while going to college. I became a nurse for an obstetrician. I was a good nurse, and the people thought I was older. I used to work 3 to 11 or 11 to 7, and my parents didn't like that. So when I worked till 11, the ambulance would take me home. And that often happened, and I would jump out of the ambulance and everybody would look around at me, and it was really awesome. Well, one night, this young man walks over to the elevator, and I said to him, visiting hours is over. And it is the first time I ever saw Dan annoyed. He came over and he said, well, if you don't let me up, there won't be an intern on duty and it'll be your fault. And I said, well, I wouldn't want that, so you can go up if you wish. But one day he wasn't busy, I wasn't busy. He came over and sat for a while, and as luck would have it, I typed his name, Hirschel, and the family knows all about that E. And he said, there's an E in my name. Who did that? I said, I did. I retyped it, and he was happy, and that was it. And the next time he came over, he asked me to go to a basketball game. So there you are. I thought he was mad at me, and he asked me to go to a basketball game, and that started everything. He told his friend he was going to marry me from the first date. He told his best friend that he was going to marry me. We communicated very well, and communication is one thing I recommend to everybody. It's very, very important. He was the love of my life. He was not supposed to be called into action because of his eyes. He did have very bad eyesight. But we were told to go to Texas. And on the way, we met this doctor who was also it was San Antonio, Texas, and he said, if I go to Arkansas, I will kill myself. I've been there, I don't want to go to Arkansas. I said to Dan, you watch, we'll go to Arkansas. Sure enough, he came back to the hotel with orders. We were going to Arkansas, the hellhole of the United States, according to this man. Well, when we first got to Arkansas, we chose the wrong hotel. And it seemed like it was going to be just as he said it was. However, we had our eyes set on the Capitol Hills apartments, which were beautiful. We loved Little Rock, Arkansas. We were there really for 2 years. Then he was shipped overseas to the front. I completed my master's at Columbia University. I went back home when he went overseas, and I said, I'm going to get overseas. Well, how do I get overseas? I joined the American Red Cross because I thought that was one way of getting over. I was in uniform. When we were assigned our slots, people went in and went out. I was the last one. I'm going to Atlantic City. Why? It's an amputee center. What am I doing with the amputees? Well, the gentleman who interviewed me said, you know Braille? I said, yes, I know Braille. Can you teach Braille? Yes, I have my education and my Braille, the blind. Well, we are sending you to Traymore because some of the amputees were blinded. It was interesting, but very, very sad. I was there until Dan came home. 3 years later, I stayed in the same position. When he came home, guess what happened? I decided I was going to be on the donut detail that met the ship that Dan was coming in on. I had found the ship, the name of the ship. And I was at the donut detail. They said, of course, Miriam. Dan looked overboard and he saw me. I think he was going to jump overboard. It was just delightful. I was so happy to see him. And of course, we had no luggage, but we both were free, so we went to a hotel that night. And you know, registering as Dr. and Mrs. Hirschl, they looked at us. Where's your luggage? Oh, we don't have any luggage. As soon as he came back, we decided to have a family. And that was Jeff, 1947. Then Janice was born in 1951, and Ron was born in 1958 in Panama. He came to me and he said, how would you like to go to Panama? I said, to the tropics? No way. I have 2 little children. One was 4, one was a baby, an 8-year-old. At the beginning, I hated it. I went to sleep at night and the sheets were wet. It was so humid. It was so bad. Our house, which was up on the hill, overlooking the bay, I still didn't like it. I wanted to go home. And he said, why don't you go to work? I'll bet they need teachers. Well, that was the trick. Then I began to make friends, and I suddenly began to like it. We moved back in 1983, and I'll tell you, at that time it was a deal. You put down $500 and you had a house. I paid so little for this house, it's incredible. I have looked at other places to go to, but I always feel Dan is here. Sometimes I will say, oh, I can't find this, Dan, help me find it. And lo and behold, I find it in some obscure place, but it's there. I hate to leave it because I feel he's here. He passed in May of '99, and then Janice passed a couple of years later. Loving the family the way I did, loving him the way I did, it was very, very difficult. But you know, I knew I had to go on living. They'll always be in my heart. I always think of them. I miss her so much. I've missed her all these years. But I have kept in touch with her 3 children. And Melissa is such a good mother, just like she was. And I wish she could see how well her children have done. It's very hard to overcome difficulties. But you have to remember that if you give up, you're not living any longer. And it's not fair to the others to just throw your life away. And sometimes it was difficult, but I would advise anybody to just, if they're down for some reason, just pick yourself up and start to live. All events shape the individual. Everything that happens shape you. I think your life is shaped by the happenings around you and mostly by your family. That's why I think family is so important. When you're brought up in a loving family, you're loving. When I see all these new grandchildren coming with all the faculties that they have, there has to be something that does this. I think I've learned a lot in my life, and I feel that communication is very important. Faith, I think, is important. And getting along with your family. I want them to remember me as a loving member of my family and the matriarch, really, of my family. And that the family should continue being a loving and close-knit family. You have to love and be loved. That's what I would like them to remember. The reason I wanted to do this video is because I want you to know how much this family means to me and how I love each and every one of you. I love you all.